Hi there, Lyle Benjamin, the Karma Guy. Hope you're having a great day. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the why behind the what. Everyone knows the what by this time, I hope, and that is planned acts of kindness. And the why that we do it, well, I'm going to get into that a lot more later on, but I'm going to share today my personal why. Okay. Why did I go ahead and start this, and what was my motivation? Because I'm asked this quite a bit. So might as well bite the bullet and get it out. When I was growing up, I kind of had a difficult childhood. Um, wow, how far back do you want me to go? Way back, uh, I was born 3 months premature. I weighed 2 pounds 3 ounces, and I spent the first months of my life in an incubator. Um, Later on, I had a difficult time in school. Didn't learn to really read properly until I was in third grade. Um, couldn't see very well. Lost my glasses for a year. No one noticed. No one replaced them, and that wasn't too fun. Um, but in school, some people took an interest, and that helped. And when my parents were divorced, when I was 7 years old, later I went to live with my father when I was 11. And I got my first job working in New York City and doing adult type work. And I met a lot of people in the neighborhood through other businesses and managers that worked around the area. I was in a floral company, and I did everything from customer service, helping customers, to doing floral arrangements, to doing deliveries. And one of the guys next door was the manager of a fast food, like, chicken, takeout place. And he was a big guy, like 6'2", a little bit of overweight, or a little lot overweight, named Jim. And he used to wear this white, greasy apron. And sometimes he'd pop into where I was working and say, "Hey, let's get lunch." And he'd treat me to lunch, and we'd sit in the back room, and we'd sit on these wooden crates and just talk. And for me, it was great. It really helped a lot that someone outside my family showed an interest and cared about me. I'm not saying that my parents didn't. I don't want to give the wrong impression, but how the dynamic was, it would appear to a lot of people that they might not have been the best parents. Okay. Um, that said, over time, a lot of people helped me quite a bit. Uh, Friends, parents, teachers in school, places where I worked. And I worked pretty much, you know, on and off continuously, um, until I was just 17. And I was forced to leave high school 6 months early, even though I was doing the best I'd ever done in school. And my stepmother wanted me to go look for a job, which I agreed to in order to get money to fund my college education. But she didn't like the way I went about looking for work. We lived 9 miles from the nearest town, out in kind of rural Fort Lauderdale. I grew up in Florida. And I took the bus in. So I can ask teachers if they knew of anything. I can ask friends. And then I would walk a half a mile into town and then knock on doors. And after doing that for a day, she objected and said I was only socializing, and basically um, decided that it would be better off if I wasn't living at the house. So fortunately for me, a friend a good friend, Steve, and, talked to his parents, and they took me in, and I got a job the next day through a friend of mine whose parents owned the largest bookstore in South Florida. And I started working there. I worked about almost 60, 70 hours a week until I went to college 9 months later. And that really helped out quite a bit. I saved money for school. The school, even though I went there only for a year because we moved and it was a new school, gave me a scholarship to go to college also to help with funds, which was great because I graduated 6 months earlier. And even teachers that I had there helped out as well. One of my humanities teachers, Miss Hughes, had me write up all the experiences that I was going through, basically journaling before journaling was popular. And then she would read it, go over it with me, and then give it to the typing teacher, Mrs. Bolin, who would then type it up and give it back. And they had no reason to do this other than they were just really good people. And they were showing me a tremendous amount of kindness. And all during this time, even though it was difficult, I knew I couldn't repay them. But I knew that I wanted to do something to help other people in order to repay them indirectly. So when I went to college, well, there's a story, I guess, in between that too. We'll get to that one in a different time. I decided that I would be an English major, but I would go to law school in order to help people. And that's what I did. I went to law school, and I found out very quickly that the profession wasn't about helping other people. Not the way that I thought it should be done. Matter of fact, I didn't like my friends even because I felt they were in it for the wrong reasons. Time to get new friends. They're good people, but a lot of them were in it for just the money at the time. And that wasn't where I was at. So I decided to take a permanent leave of absence after I did an internship with the Attorney General's office in the Litigation Bureau in New York and Albany. And they had offered me a job when I graduate. And I realized that absolutely the profession wasn't for me. So I said, thank you, but no thank you. I went back to law school, and then I decided to check out early. So I went into entrepreneurial business, and I learned some things. And actually, I had a printing and design company. Didn't start out that way, but it evolved into that. And I created a prototype for a national newsstand magazine. I moved to New York, pitched it to Time Warner and Cable News. And 6 months later, I had a national newsstand magazine called Relationships Today. And it was the first national magazine exclusively devoted to helping people with all types of relationships: intimate, family, friendship, and work. And that went very, very well, at least from a editorial, educational point of view. The readership loved it. Even the psychological community loved it. And I was kind of surprised about that because I was a layperson doing this, a layperson in psychology at least. And we had great feedback mechanisms built in. This was before the internet, believe it or not. there were things before the internet. But doing a magazine is very, very expensive. And I didn't have tremendously deep pockets and spent a little too much time on content and not enough time on the business side. So that was that chapter of my life. I also did a best-selling adult relationship game called Romantic Journey, and I partnered with a company in California, and they just put it into specialty stores, and it sold about 40,000 copies. And what was great about that, just like the magazine, was it really helped people. And I met people who played the game first time they did, communication and intimacy at that level, and later got married. So those were my efforts at helping others. There are other things I did as well. Later on, I got into the meeting and event planning business, and I did very well. I helped individuals and companies with different types of events and published a book that was sold in Barnes & Noble and other places. And I realized, though, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. I was just, working to make companies look good, and I wasn't fulfilling my mission or the promise that I had made to myself and God, actually. So I gave it up, and I started 16 Things Kids Can Do in 2010. And I worked on developing the programs and then implementing them kind of piece by piece over time. And then a couple of years ago, I came up with planned acts of kindness because of what was going on in our country, but also in the world, and created the two different aspects of what planned acts would do. One is give people the opportunity to do something on a regular basis that not only benefits other people in a significant way, but also helps themselves. And then the second part is that the problems of the world, like climate change, pollution, overpopulation, those things aren't going to be solved by governments or by corporations. They're going to be solved by ordinary people working together on common causes with a common focus. And that's what members of Planned Acts and the Karma Club can do. Our goal is to get tens of millions of people in this country, hundreds of millions of people around the world working together on common problems wherever they crop up in the world, so that we can go ahead and change government behavior, corporate behavior. If they talk about corporate social responsibility, well, then let them walk the walk. Okay? And if we've got enough people in the program that can come to bear, they'll have to go ahead and do it. Because we've only got one planet, we've got one species of people on this planet, and it's about time we started acting like it. Because if we don't, the world is going to be tremendously different for billions of people, and not in a positive way. So this is, my attempt to repay the people during my life that I've encountered who really helped me. And, I'm constantly meeting people who are doing tremendous things in all different areas, from health to environment to, nonprofit to NGO, all these different things. And what we need to do, though, is really work together in order to go ahead and accomplish bigger things. Because, the tipping points, they're not 20, 30 years from now on these major issues. They're actually now. And if we don't start getting a handle on it, our world population might be 7 billion today. But if the oceans get overheated and there's so much plastic pollution that the majority of fish die, what's that going to do to the population? We're going to starve to death. Okay. And it might not be my generation or the generation after that, right? But we've got to also think about what we're leaving behind to our children. It's not just do for now. Okay. We've got to really plan and do now for what's coming later. So that's a little bit about my background. Um, there are there's more that I'll be sharing, I guess. I didn't know this was going to turn out to be a confessional, but there's more that I'll be sharing in the future. And again, any kindness stories that you'd like to share, go on to Planned Acts of Kindness, go to Kindness Shared Stories, and you'll be able to put them in shortly. Um, Contact us through the website. Do whatever you can to make the world a better place. And it all starts with kindness. It all starts with gratitude. Okay. And it all starts with God. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen. This is Lyle Benjamin, the Karma Guy, and catch up with you sooner or later. Take care.